Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of motorcycles.
Okay.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about Hero MotoCorp,
Boss.
one of India's biggest companies.
Yeah.
And we've got this really cool, detailed financial analysis from Screener to help guide our deep dive.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so it's going to be super interesting to see what we can find out.
Right.
Now, even if you're not like a motorcycle enthusiast, I think this is going to be a really cool deep dive.
Yeah.
Because it's more than just motorcycles.
It really is.
You know, this is a story of like Indian industry, global partnerships, and just adapting to a changing market.
Right.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think what's so cool about this deep dive is we're starting with motorcycles.
Right.
But really what we're looking at is the story of a company that's really trying to figure out how to thrive in a market that is changing so quickly.
Totally. I mean, even if you're not into motorcycles, the story of Hero MotoCorp, I think, is just like a window into how businesses adapt and evolve. Right. You know?
Yeah.
Especially in today's world where things are changing so quickly.
Ooh.
Where do we even begin?
Well, before we get into those cutting-edge financials,
Okay.
let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
Hero MotoCorp's story actually starts way before motorcycles.
Okay.
Bicycles.
Wait, seriously?
Yep.
I had no idea.
Back in the 1950s, the company that would become Hero MotoCorp
Okay.
started out as Hero Cycles.
Wow.
And then fast forward to 1984.
Oh.
They team up with Honda from Japan to form a joint venture
Okay.
called Hero Honda.
Ah, that's where that name comes from.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this partnership,
Yeah.
this was a game changer.
Okay.
They quickly become like a dominant force in the Indian motorcycle market.
Okay, so that explains that whole Hero Honda thing.
Right.
But what happened? Why is it just Hero MotoCorp now?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
So in 2011,
Okay.
Honda decided to go their separate ways, and they sold their stake in the company to the Munjals,
Okay.
who were the original founders of Hero.
Okay.
So essentially, it was like a declaration of independence for Hero.
I can imagine that must have been a huge risk
It was.
to break away from such a well-established partner like Honda.
Absolutely.
What were the implications of that split?
Well, joint ventures,
Yeah.
are a pretty common strategy, especially in emerging markets. Companies share knowledge, resources, and of course, risk.
Yeah.
But as markets mature,
Right.
a lot of times local companies want to forge their own path.
Makes sense.
So in this case, it seems like Hero just felt confident enough in their own capabilities
Okay.
to strike out on their own.
So it's kind of like riding a bike with training wheels.
Right.
And then finally taking the training wheels
Yeah,
off
exactly.
and riding on your own.
Yeah, and that independent journey, that took them beyond just the super iconic Hero splendors you see everywhere in India.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You mean the ones that are like basically woven into the fabric of life there?
Precisely. And while those bikes are still incredibly popular,
Sure.
Hero MotoCorp has been strategically expanding
Okay.
into the premium segment,
Okay.
launching models like the Charisma XMR,
Okay.
the HD X440,
Right.
and the MVR CK440, which is like this adventure-ready motorcycle.
Hold on. Those names sound a lot more high-tech than like Splendor.
They do.
So what's the reasoning behind that shift?
It's all about trying to appeal to a different kind of customer
Okay.
and, capture higher profit margins.
Okay.
And if you look at our screener report,
Yeah.
this strategy is already making a difference. The premium segment actually contributed about 25% of their revenue
Wow.
just in the third quarter of this fiscal year alone.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the history, the product evolution.
Right.
I think it's time to get into the nitty-gritty
Yeah, let's do it.
of the financials.
Right.
The screener analysis is packed with numbers, and some of them are pretty eye-opening. I know, right? So,
What stands out to you?
well, first off, the market capitalization is a whopping 92,592 crore.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who don't speak finance,
Right.
that basically means the company is valued at over 92,592 crore,
Wow.
putting them amongst the giants of Indian industry.
It really underscores the scale of their operations and their influence on the Indian economy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that I think might be interesting to income-focused investors out there.
Okay.
Dividend payout of 75.9%.
Wow.
That means they're sharing a big chunk of their profits
Uh-huh.
with shareholders.
It definitely suggests a level of financial stability
Yeah.
and a commitment to rewarding their investors.
Totally.
But I'm curious, what other numbers are you looking at?
Well, one thing that did kind of jump out at me was the sales growth or the lack thereof.
Okay.
Screener reports a sales growth of just 2.15% over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
That's not exactly a booming trajectory.
No, and that leads us to like a significant challenge that Hero MotoCorp is actually facing right now.
Okay.
The domestic motorcycle market in India has become really stagnant. It's a fiercely competitive space, and growth has been really sluggish for years.
So while their dividend payout may look attractive,
Right.
this sluggish growth definitely raises some questions.
It does, especially when you compare them to other automakers
Right.
that have more diverse products, cars, trucks, even electric vehicles, which gives them more flexibility
Right.
to navigate all these market shifts.
So it's almost like they're stuck in a traffic jam.
Right.
While others are in like the fast lane, just cruising along.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember,
Yeah.
financial reports, they give us a snapshot,
Huh.
but they don't always tell the whole story.
Right.
And that's where expert analysis comes in
Okay.
to connect the dots
Yeah.
and uncover some of the deeper trends.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond those top line figures, what are some of the like underlying strengths and weaknesses
Yeah.
that the experts are seeing here?
Sure.
Where do we go from here
Okay.
to understand this company's position and potential?
Okay. Well, despite that sluggish growth we were talking about, Hero MotoCorp is actually in a pretty strong financial position.
Okay.
For one, they're virtually debt-free.
Debt-free.
Yeah,
In this economy.
I know.
That's got to be a huge advantage.
It is.
Right.
But,
Absolutely.
I mean, especially when you consider that a lot of companies are like burdened with debt,
Yeah.
which can limit their ability to invest and innovate.
Right.
So being debt-free gives them a lot more flexibility
It does.
to adapt to market changes
Yeah.
and pursue new opportunities.
It does. What do you think the implications are of that?
Well, I mean, it seems like it would give them more freedom
Yeah.
to make strategic moves like investing in research and development
Uh-huh.
or even acquiring other companies
Right.
without having to worry about those hefty
Ah.
interest payments. Exactly. And that brings us to another interesting point from the screener report.
Okay.
Despite the slow sales growth,
Yeah.
Hero MotoCorp remains quite profitable.
Okay.
They have healthy operating profit margins,
Hmm.
which basically means they're managing their costs really efficiently,
Okay.
and they're squeezing more profit out of each sale.
Now, for our listeners out there who might not be familiar with all this financial jargon,
Sure.
what exactly does operating profit margin mean,
So
and why is it important?
operating profit margin is essentially a measure of how much profit a company makes
Okay.
on each dollar of sales
Yeah.
after accounting for like the direct costs,
Right.
like manufacturing and marketing.
So it's like the profit they actually make after they've paid for
Exactly.
making the thing and
Right.
selling the thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And so a healthy operating profit margin like Hero's indicates that they're running a tight ship
Mm-hmm.
and making the most of their resources.
So they're efficient,
Yeah.
they're profitable, and they're debt-free.
Yes,
Sounds like a pretty solid foundation.
it is.
But how does a company with such a strong financial position deal with a market that's like as jammed as you described?
Well, they've got to find ways to break free from that traffic jam,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And one of the ways they're doing that is by venturing into the electric vehicle market
Okay.
or the EV market.
Right.
They've even launched their own dedicated EV brand called Vita,
Wow.
and they're investing heavily in research and development to expand their electric motorcycle offerings.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're being honest, isn't the electric motorcycle market in India still pretty small compared to like
Yeah.
traditional gas-powered bikes?
Yes, it's a bet on the future.
So it's kind of risky.
It is, but there are a couple of things that are kind of working in their favor.
Okay.
Government policies are increasingly supporting EVs,
Okay.
and there's growing awareness among consumers
Mm-hmm.
about the need for sustainable transportation options. Plus, think about what we talked about earlier.
Right.
Their strong financials,
Right.
being debt-free,
Yeah.
gives them that flexibility
Okay.
to invest in emerging markets like this,
Makes sense.
even if the payoff isn't immediate.
Okay. So their financial stability gives them
Yeah.
a bit more freedom to experiment
It
and take those risks.
Exactly.
Okay. But let's not forget the EV space is getting crowded,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
With all these established players.
Yeah.
And a bunch of new startups.
Right.
So what makes Hero MotoCorp think they can carve out a winning position?
Well, they've got a couple things working for them.
Okay.
They've got decades of experience in the motorcycle industry.
That's true.
So they have a deep understanding of what Indian customers want and need.
Right. They're not newcomers.
Not at all. And
Yeah.
they've got that brand recognition.
Right.
The Hero name carries a lot of weight in India,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to quality and reliability.
I mean, brand loyalty only goes so far, though.
It does.
Right.
Right.
So what else are they doing to really make a dent
Okay.
in this EV market?
They're really focusing on developing products that offer tangible benefits
Okay.
over traditional motorcycles.
Okay.
Things like longer range, better performance, and affordability.
Right.
But it's not just about the bikes themselves.
Okay.
Remember when we talked about that traffic jam analogy?
Yeah.
To really succeed in the EV space,
Yeah.
they're going to need to address some pretty big roadblocks.
Okay, I'm listening. What are those roadblocks?
So think about the infrastructure needed for EVs.
Okay.
They need to contribute to building a robust charging network,
Yeah.
address consumer concerns about battery life and replacement costs,
Right.
and even just like find ways to make the entire EV ownership experience
Yeah.
more convenient
Makes sense.
and appealing.
It's not just building motorcycles anymore.
Right.
It's almost like building a whole new ecosystem around them.
It's like they're building the roads,
Right.
as well as the cars to drive on them.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge,
Right.
but it's one that they seem to be taking seriously.
Okay, so we've talked about EVs as one potential path forward,
Yeah,
but are there other strategies they could explore
sure.
to overcome this like sluggish market growth?
Absolutely.
I mean, they can't put all their eggs in one basket.
Right. Diversification is key.
Right.
And there are a couple of other avenues that I think could be really interesting to watch.
Okay.
One option is geographic expansion.
Okay.
Right now, they're heavily reliant on the Indian market.
Which makes sense,
It does?
given their history and brand presence there.
Right.
But I can see how branching out
Yeah,
to new markets could unlock new growth
exactly.
for them.
Expanding into developing countries with similar demographics
Okay.
and transportation needs as India
Okay.
could be a smart move.
So like places like
Think Africa,
Africa. Okay.
Southeast Asia,
Okay.
Latin America.
So almost like exploring uncharted territory for them.
But of course, it wouldn't be easy.
Right. I imagine there would be challenges
There would.
with navigating different regulations,
Yeah.
cultural preferences,
No.
building new distribution networks. So there's a lot of obstacles.
There are to
Gee.
overcome.
But remember,
Yeah.
Hero has a history of successful partnerships.
That's true.
You know, their joint venture with Honda
Right.
is a prime example.
Right.
So perhaps they could leverage that experience
Okay.
to forge new alliances with international players
Okay.
to ease their entry into these new markets.
Yeah, so collaborating with established brands
Exactly.
in those target markets
Mm-hmm.
could give them a leg up.
It would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So beyond going global,
Right.
are there other ways they could diversify?
Well, they could also look at expanding their product portfolio
Okay.
beyond motorcycles.
Okay.
You know, we already touched upon their move into premium bikes and electric vehicles,
All right.
but they could go even further. So what else could they add to their lineup?
Think scooters, three-wheelers,
Okay.
even small commercial vehicles.
Interesting.
These are segments that are experiencing significant growth
Okay.
in emerging markets and could provide Hero with additional revenue streams
Mm-hmm.
and reduce their reliance on just the motorcycle market.
Okay, so it's all about adapting and innovating
It
and
is,
finding
sure.
new ways to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
But with all these potential paths, it's got to be a challenge to
Yeah.
decide which direction to take.
It is. That's where leadership comes in.
Right.
The folks at the helm of Hero MotoCorp
Yeah,
have a big responsibility to steer the company
right.
towards a successful future.
Speaking of leadership, we haven't really talked about
Yeah.
the people who are calling the shots,
Oh.
who's guiding the ship through these uncharted waters.
Well, the company's led by the Munjal family,
Okay.
the same family that founded Hero Cycles back in the 1950s.
Wow.
Pawan Munjal,
Okay.
the current chairman and managing director,
Okay.
has been a key figure in navigating the company through these major transitions,
Mhm.
including the split from Honda.
Okay, so they have deep roots
They do.
in the company
Yes,
and a long-term perspective.
absolutely.
But, I mean, is experience enough
Yeah.
to thrive in a market that's changing as rapidly as this one?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
While experience is valuable,
Right.
they also need the vision
Yeah.
to anticipate industry trends,
Mm-hmm.
the agility to adapt to changing consumer demands,
Mm-hmm.
and the courage to make bold decisions, even when those decisions are risky.
So they need to be both seasoned captains
Yes.
and fearless explorers.
Exactly.
But they can't do it alone.
Right. They can't. They need a strong team to execute that vision.
Right.
Which brings up another important point.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What else should we be considering?
Okay. So we've talked about leadership and the need for a really strong team
Right.
to execute that vision.
Yeah.
But, the success of any company, especially one undergoing a big transformation,
Yeah.
like Hero MotoCorp, is really influenced by its culture and values.
Right.
What kind of environment are they creating to attract and retain top talent?
Right.
Are they fostering a culture of innovation and adaptability?
Right.
These are crucial factors that can really make or break a company's efforts to reinvent itself.
That's a great point. I mean, it's not just about having a good product.
Right.
You need to have the right people and the right mindset to bring that product to the world.
Absolutely.
And in this case, to take on the challenges of a changing market, a changing technology landscape, and changing consumer preferences.
Exactly. And, we can't forget the larger context of all this.
Right.
The global economy is in flux.
Right.
And the automotive industry is undergoing a once-in-a-generation shift towards electric vehicles.
Right.
I mean, Hero MotoCorp is navigating some pretty choppy waters here.
Yeah.
And their ability to weather the storm is going to depend on a whole host of factors.
Right.
Both internal and external.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We've explored their history, their financials, their challenges, their potential strategies for growth.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what's the key takeaway here for our listener? What should they be thinking about as they continue to do their own research and exploration of Hero MotoCorp?
Here's a question I think is worth pondering.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about Hero's dominance in the traditional motorcycle market.
Right.
But with the rise of electric vehicles, can they really become a leader in that space?
Right.
Or will they be left behind as the industry kind of shifts gears?
That's a big question.
It is.
And one that I think only time will tell.
Right.
But what I find so fascinating is that even with all this uncertainty and all the challenges ahead of them, Hero MotoCorp seems to be embracing this change rather than shying away from it.
I agree. Remember those premium motorcycles we talked about with the more modern names?
Right.
Those weren't just about capturing a new market segment. It was a signal that Hero is ready and willing to evolve, to push their boundaries, redefine their brand identity.
So it's like they're saying, hey, we're not just the Splendor company anymore.
Exactly.
We're ready to compete on a global stage with innovative designs, cutting-edge technology.
I think that same spirit of innovation and adaptation is going to be really crucial as they navigate this EV landscape.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just about building cool electric bikes. We talked about the need to create a whole ecosystem, right? The charging infrastructure, addressing those consumer concerns about batteries, maybe even developing new business models to support that shift.
Absolutely. Think about the potential here.
Okay.
They could partner with energy companies.
Okay.
To create a network of charging stations.
Yeah.
Or maybe even offer battery swapping services to ease the range anxiety.
Right, because that's a big concern, I think, with EVs.
It is.
In general. It's how far can I go before I need to charge?
Yeah, what if they had an app that connects all the EV riders?
Okay.
Providing real-time information about charging availability.
Okay.
And even optimized routes for longer trips.
Oh, that's really thinking outside the box.
Right.
It's almost like they need to become a tech company as much as a motorcycle manufacturer.
Exactly.
Which again brings us back to that question of leadership and culture.
Yeah.
Are they ready to make that leap?
It's a big challenge.
It is.
But you know what I think makes this whole story so compelling? Is that we're witnessing a company at a crossroads.
Right.
They have a rich history, a strong foundation, a willingness to embrace change, whether they can successfully navigate this transition to a more electric, more connected, more sustainable future. Well, that remains to be seen.
It does.
But one thing's for sure. It's going to be a really fascinating journey to watch.
It really is. And for our listeners out there, I think the takeaway here is that This isn't just a story about motorcycles or even about one company.
It's bigger than that.
It's a story about how businesses adapt to a changing world.
Absolutely.
How innovation drives progress.
Yeah.
And how the choices that we make today shape the future of mobility.
Right.
So we've given you the insights. We've given you the analysis. We've given you the questions to ponder.
Yeah.
Now it's your turn to kind of dive deeper,
explore
further, and come to your own conclusions.
And remember, there's always more to learn.
Always.
More to discover and more to discuss.
Right.
So keep those minds engaged.
Keep asking those questions.
Yeah.
And keep exploring the world around you.
Absolutely.
And until next time.
Yeah.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving.